No, I actually cut and paste and added that, and I get some output that looks like this. It says it's enumerating objects, some set of stuff. The stuff I'm always watching is this new branch right here where it says that it took master and pushed it to master. And at the end of that, I have a new repository up on GitHub. Usually I'm like, oh, I got through building this thing, I'm done with it, I've pushed it up, and I'm usually pretty happy with all of that kind of stuff. So that kind of is how to create a new thing with a branch. Um, I'm very happy with Git. I use it at the command line. I've been using it for a number of years now, so I'm really, really used to it. There are GUIs for using it. Guitar is one that I particularly like. It's portable across systems. Realistically, I do use things like the Git GUI and Guitar, mostly for special kinds of diff stuff, but most of the time I use it at the command line. There just isn't that much to remember, and it works really well at the command line, and I can install it on all kinds of systems. So it's another one of these command line tools that I'm very happy with. Now, one of those things that is important is how you tag versions. This is becoming increasingly a thing. There are entire systems that are basically requiring this these days. If you build a Python package or a Go package, Flutter, which is an up-and-coming system that's developed by Google, all of these things require a semantic version, and it's done with Git tags. So we might just as well take a look at Git tags. It just adds a little bit to Git, and it's been there for a long time, but this is the process. You've got some particular thing, and you'd like to say at this point that this is this version. And the way that most of these version things work is you have a V and 3 numbers. The numbers count up as you're building things. The first one is the major version, and you are expected to keep things in order so that they continue to work with your APIs and interfaces on a major version. And then you have 2 minor version numbers. Usually the last one in there is patches. The middle one is minor versions that you're working through. And these are numbers that can count up past 10, so these are not decimal digits. But when you want to create a tag, the first one is, do you have any tags out there? If you just go git tag, it will show you nothing. There are no tags on this particular thing. If I do git tag and some version number, I have now created this odd version number with 01. I don't know why I did that. But we have that version number. And if I want to take that version number and I want to send it on up to some other repository, I have to push it. So if I have origin, which is in this case GitHub, and I want to send that version on up to there, I have to usually commit what I've got for work changes, so I have a clean directory, and then I have to git push and whatever that version number for that tag is. If you don't push your tag to your upstream repository, then you just have it locally. It isn't been shared with the world. And that's how you push it. It's just like pushing a branch. So there is this other tagging system, and lots of systems rely on it. And that's how you create tags, how you list them, how you push them up. And for this class, we're going to do a little homework with the Git. I do want you to go out to GitHub, or for that matter, GitLab. It doesn't matter. You get your choice. Create an account. Build a repository and add a file to it. README or readme.txt or something like that. Put in a couple lines of text. It doesn't have to be long. And then go through the process of getting your local version to talk to that and pushing some files up. What you put in the files is up to you. I'm not going to be looking at the files. I'm going to be looking that you have created this and you have created a branch. So you want to create some branch of choice of your name and stick your name in a file in there. Whatever you do with the file, it's only going to be a couple files. Hopefully you're not creating something with thousands of files that I have to look at, but just a couple files. Add that file, commit it with a decent message, like that it's for homework, and push it up. You'll notice that when you've created a branch, again, to push that branch up, you have to do git push origin and the branch name, so that you have this branch pushed up to whatever your system is. And when you have done that, okay, for your homework, turn in the URL of your Git repository as your homework. Just stick it in a file and upload it so that I can go look at it and see that you have created a Git repository. But work through this. I have put up at the bottom of this, I have put a list of commands, and the way I've built this list of commands is I have actually my bash shell history going back for years. And I have actually gone through my shell history and found all the git commands that I have used. And I have grouped them into basic things, into commit messages and stuff like that, branching and merging stuff. And I have taken the ones that I have actually used over the past 7 years and given you kind of a real short description of what they do. And this is the ones that I actually use. And I've done this on a number of commercial projects, but here is the list of all the git commands that I'm actually using on a regular basis. It's not a totally short list, but it's also not that long of a list. As to GUIs, they are not in the 98 point something percent of stuff, and I have looked for them in when I run stuff. And I'm not double clicking on the GUI to run it because I'm working on a Macintosh, so I actually start it from the command line and it would show up in my history too. So those are the sets of commands I actually use. Now, when you have some repository that you want to make a copy of locally, the command that you use is git clone. So you would git clone and you need the URL of that repository. And GitHub has a little green thing on the side that allows you to click and get this. So does GitLab. And you get the URL of that repository and you do git clone with that URL and you get a copy of it locally. If you use the Go language, underneath the covers when you do go get, it is doing git clones. If you use npm with Node, when you pull in stuff underneath the cover, it is by and large doing git clones. That's how it pulls stuff down to your local system. So all of these things, Rust, Python these days, they're all under the cover doing this git clone to get stuff. You can have more than one upstream repository. You don't have to have just one. And that is configured in that .git config file. But you can attach your system to multiple repositories upstream, so this doesn't have to be, just one upstream. I do have repositories that I have on both GitHub, GitLab, and my own private Git repository that I work with. So those are a couple of the different weird options, is multiple upstreams, but mostly what you do is you have some particular upstream and you may have multiple copies of it checked out locally that you're working with. But there is the commands, and that is kind of the overview of Git. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should mention about Git, but I don't think so. I think that's about it. I did mention that you can do time travel with Git. There is a way to, if you've done something terribly wrong, go in and patch stuff and make new changes that correct things in history. It is really ugly. Whenever I do it, I usually sit down with somebody else that knows Git and we work through it together. It's that bad, and I don't do it often, but it is possible if you really need to fix something.